Jo napotkivanok, a nevím Joanna, lengerol sagbol sarmazon. And now I have my hardest part of this speech behind me. Now let's go to exploratory testing. I would like to invite you for a journey about exploration. I would like to tell you about the best tool you can use with exploration sessions. And this tool is used by everyone, but not actually everyone knows how to use it, or sometimes people don't realize that this tool has its limits or its special ways of working. This tool is our brain. And our brain, when it comes to cognitive processes, has some limits. That's why when it comes to cognition, cognition is what we know. But before it happens in our brain, that we know something, we have to go through the process. And this process starts at the very beginning in input. We have to put something in our brain so that we can process it. And we can analyze the facts, or we can analyze something that we hear, or we can analyze something that we see. And today we will be talking about our attention, which means attention is something that brings our brain to work, that brings our brain to start noticing things. And how it works. Our brain is costs a lot of energy, its work. So it's worked out this special economy that we're sometimes not aware of. And this economy of our attention makes us to switch from one mode to another. One mode is when we think automatically. And another mode when we concentrate on details and when we start noticing things and process them. And to show you this two modes interaction, I decided to choose my favorite star, Bear Grylls, because he's a little bit like what's going on in our heads. Because Bear Grylls, have you ever heard about this person? Can you show me who has never heard anything about Bear Grylls? Okay, there are some people, but don't worry, I will tell you about him. So this guy, his name is Edward Grylls, and he loves adventures. He loves explore. He actually made a living on it. He started making the movies, making the TV shows about exploration. And I tell you, there is so much we as testers can learn from him that I would like to introduce him, and when you will be thinking about exploratory sessions. So, Bear Grylls, actually his name is Edward, and he lives normal life in the city. When he's not in the jungle, he lives in England, and he does the everyday errands. So I would call it mode Edward. So in our brains, when we do everyday things, when we go to school, when we go to work, when we go to pick up kids from kindergarten, we turn on the Edwards mode. So when we get into the car, we don't think too much. We don't analyze. We don't look for the stick to change the gear. We don't analyze, oh, now I'm going the first and then I change to second. We do it automatically. So what does our brain? Our brain can turn off the precision of the details. If we know something really well, we are like Edward in a city. We work in automatic mode. But then Edward goes to the jungle. And now he needs to recognize every detail of the surrounding. So when he went to school with kids, he didn't have to get out of the car to pick up the stone and find walking proteins to feed his family. He didn't have to look for them at all. Why? Because he knew well what's next. He knew very well that the kids' school has cafeteria, and he knew exactly that he can buy sandwiches there. And I tell you, he doesn't look for any alternative ways of drinking also when he's in London. But when he goes somewhere to the jungle or somewhere to explore, he needs to think only about the next step. He needs to look at the river, and then he climbs on the mountain and see if he can cross this river. In London, he knows that there is a bridge, so he doesn't put too much attention to it. But here, he has to see exactly how the log looks. Is it slippery? Is it hard enough to take his weight? He needs to decide every single detail of his surrounding. But our brain cannot work this way all the time. We can work on this intuitive thinking only for a certain amount of time. And they say it's 90 minutes. That's why exploratory sessions usually last 90 minutes, because this is it takes a lot of energy. But if you know it's 90 minutes, you need to make sure you dedicate this time fully to your exploratory session. And you need to know that you need to use this switch, and you need to turn off the Edward mode and turn on the Bear mode when you come to exploratory session. And I would like to do the quick exploratory session right now, so I need you to cooperate with me. We don't have much time, so I want you to get into pairs. Can you please everybody get together? Everybody has a pair? If I see somebody without pair, but I see some people, can you get together? Can you get together? Yes? Quickly. Everybody has a pair? Raise your hand if you don't. We will find you someone quickly. Okay, you all have pairs. Now, in the pairs, I would like you, person that is closer to this wall, raise your hand. I don't see hands raised. You don't have pairs there? Okay, so person A is the person who thinks of a famous person that will be. And person B will be asking questions. Do you know the game 20 questions? Okay, so I want you to start this game, and I want to see who will be first to guess. Okay, I want you, who will be first to guess who the person was. Okay, person B starts asking question now. Great, we have already a winner. Okay. Okay, raise your hand if you know. Okay, here we have some people who already solved it. All right, here we have some more. Here we have someone. Okay, we have 1 more minute, so hurry up with your questions. All right, here we have people. Okay, here we have some too, and there. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Can you please be quiet now? Shh. You can, the good news is, shh. The good news is you can finish it later. Now you know more people, right? And there will be coffee break at some point later. Okay, so who guessed after 10 questions or less? 10 questions or less. Okay, 5 questions or less. Wow, look at you. Now, this is exactly what you did. You did exploratory session. And I want you to remember the most important thing about exploratory session is that you do 1 step, you see what's here, and you make decision about the next step. Imagine if I told you this. Person B prepares 20 questions and writes them down. And then we'll read all the questions. Would you guess in 5 questions? Would you guess in 10 questions? Sometimes those 20 questions would be invalid. This is what's the difference between exploratory testing and a scenario-based testing. We have scenario prepared, and we are like Edward Grylls bringing his kids to school. We know the route, we know what we're going to do, and we do it step by step. Exploratory session takes us to this situation where we take the step, see what's here, and decide about next steps. There is this author, Maria Konnikova, who wrote the book Think Like Sherlock Holmes, and she compares this automatic thinking into walking on the street with a list that has all the answers by default checked to true. So imagine like Edward goes out of the house and says, car keys? Yes. Car? Yes. Kids? Both. He has 3 kids, by the way, I think. I'm not sure. But anyways, he knows. He has it on his checklist, right? So this is how it works when we're in automatic thinking. River? Sure. Bridge? It was there yesterday. It will be here today too. And this is the biggest trap that we go into when we get to testing. Sometimes we know this application so well that we're going step by step through it, not noticing all the bugs crawling under the stones that could be such a great source of proteins, right? But I don't want you to think that exploratory sessions are the ones with no documents. This is urban legend. It's not true. You need to do some documentation. You need to get prepared. Do you know that Bear Grylls prepares himself really well before his trips? He actually even has this program of exercises. He does the push-ups and all the stuff to have muscles even to do the exploratory. He also gets his tools. He even gets his cameraman. This is what people say. Oh, Bear Grylls, he's great at climbing. Think about his cameraman. He's doing the same with camera, right? But this is his preparation. He needs to be prepared for his trip. That's why exploratory session, you cannot sit down and start clicking. You need to get all the data that you need to go and proceed with those tests. And later, during the session, you make notes. Notes are super important because you have to make notes because if you find a bug, you will have to start the procedure again if you don't write down. Sometimes you don't find the bug. Sometimes you have this feeling that it doesn't work right, or that it's not user-friendly, or there's something wrong in it. And how will you remember all this stuff that came to your mind if you don't make notes? Notes is like, notes from the trip. You just tell people what you saw. And then maybe later you can make a decision. And this is what they say. Exploratory sessions depend a lot on the tester, on the person who's proceeding with exploratory tests. So that's why it's so important that the person who proceeds with tests knows how to use it, knows how to go through this process of perception details. Our brain has this economy. That when there are too many details, we just turn them off. They don't exist for us. They are background. They are blank background. So perception, how it works, it just takes the detail we're interested in and it sticks out from the background. So that's why you don't remember every billboard that was on the way from the place you came here to here. You just remember those things that draw your attention. They stick off the background, and that's why you remember them well. And this is a little bit like when you were kids. I don't know if many of you have kids, but I guess most of you were kids at some point, right? And I don't know if you remember going out for a walk as a 5-year-old kid. You go for a walk, and you see the dirt. Wow, there is a dirt. Can I stick my toe in it? Can I try it? Can I throw the stone in it and see? Oh, maybe it's frozen. Maybe I actually walk in it. And then, after 10 years, you're going through the same part of dirt, and you just run quickly because you will be late for the bus. And those details that when you were small are actually fade away. They become background. They become only things that you never notice. So same things happens to us when we work with application for too long. When we are new at work, Everything is exciting. We can report any bug on any tiny little pixel that is unnecessary here or there. And then we know everything. People come to us and ask us questions. People want to know things, and we know that. But when it comes to clicking, we are so used to it. We are like that student that is running to be on time for the bus, that is running to be on time on code freeze, or be on time to demo or to release. And when we have this goal that we're in a hurry, we have to remember about the switch. Yes, we have it all the time. We can use it. We can go back to when we were new to application, turn on the mode, Bear Grylls mode, and start noticing details and making decisions about the continuing testing according to the details that we've noticed. And that's it. If we have some questions. Oh, I had one more word, K-S-N-M.
That was awesome.
Woo.
So the questions. Any recommendations on the tool to document exploratory testing?
Notebook. But I use the tool TestRail, and it has nice window that is really almost like notebook, and this is where we write down our observations.
All right, the next one. Could you please share us some lessons learned around exploratory testing? Any failures?
Failures. I'm looking at my friends from my team and trying to remember what failures we had on exploratory testing. No, I cannot think about anything. I had some failures, but not connected with exploratory testing. Maybe when I come up with more, I can write, I don't know, you can reach me through some social media, and when I remember this, I can share. Does
exploratory testing fits for junior testers as well?
Yes, this is what they say. It's good for seniors because they know application, and it's excellent for juniors because they don't know application. And this is amazing resource for them to sit down and see everything with new eyes. And really to block every other details, like do not answer Slack if somebody is bothering you. No, 90 minutes only for application.
The next one, should we eat the bugs to like it?
Of course, they have proteins.
Okay, the next one is, how often do you exploratory testing? If done regularly, wouldn't it lose its meaning?
Yeah, there are some rules that you can decide to do exploratory testing. For example, when you finish application or functionality that you worked for a long time, and you feel that, okay, part of it was released, then the next part of it was released too, but actually I lost the feeling how it works overall. And let's check it, let's write report, and let's see if it actually is useful for client.
Mm-hmm. The last one in the queue is, what do you think, what level of domain knowledge is required for an exploratory tester when testing a given application?
Okay, knowledge is great for tests, for exploratory sessions, and this knowledge probably will lead experienced tester somewhere else where it will lead new tester. But how can new tester learn about exploratory testing if not by doing them a lot? So actually, probably if we have two testers, one new and one well-experienced with very complicated knowledge of domain, probably their reports will look totally different. But both will be precious for the project and for quality. Does that answer the question? I guess so.
Yes. The next one. What do you suggest when a lot of people do exploratory tests in order to detect more different bugs?
What do I suggest? I don't really understand the question. Like if there should be more people doing exploratory sessions, or?
Can somebody help with this question? It was anonym probably, but...
I wouldn't suggest that the whole company is doing exploratory testing. I would suggest that in the teams, where I find it most helpful, that in the teams when we are tired with parts and the bits of application, or I really want to, before release, I just sit down and do that, and I usually do exploratory just one person. I don't include the big team in the sessions.
Okay, the next one. It's really good, the questions are just coming. What is the target of exploratory testing? Finding the bug or finishing the user case?
We, at the very beginning, the same as Bear Grylls, we set up the mission. And this is what we decide at the beginning of sessions. We set the mission, that our mission is to find more bugs that we didn't find during regular testing, or automating auto tests didn't find them. So if this is our mission, yes, this is find more bugs that were not found in other tests or test cases, test scenarios. And we decide the mission is to learn the program for junior tester. This will be his mission, and this will dictate how his report will look like, I guess.
Okay. Do you believe in cheat sheets or for exploratory testing? Do they help or do they kill creativity?
It really depends on a person who executes those tests. Some people will need more data, some will less. If, for example, if developer wants to, sometimes it's good for developers to do exploratory sessions. So they will probably need more data. Maybe they will not be used to click so much, and without those sheets, they will not really know what to do next. So they could be helpful, and depending on a person who's executing.
The next one, how do you keep the mind that when doing exploratory testing on the same application for a long time?
Yeah, that's difficult. You have to force yourself to really use this switch. And you have to really know. So what helps me, actually, is not having test scenario. It's that the things that I see will dictate where I go next. For example, I imagine that I'm the user. And I think probably the user will see the application differently. And then I say to myself, what would the user do? Where would the user click? And this helps me to stay alert.
I heard an opinion that exploratory testing is not needed if you do all the previous testing right. How would you defend exploratory testing?
Yeah, sure. We need exploratory testing because where do we produce our application? Who do we produce it for? For users. And the users are not in our Scrum team, and they did not tell us about requirements. So yes, we tested it against requirements. We tested it against test scenario. But then we need a person who sits down and just takes the general look at the solution that we provided. And with this in mind, that it will be user. What will they do? What will they think about clicking? So I think it's important that we still spend some time on exploratory testing.
Can you recommend some books?
In Polish, sorry.
And the last one, when do you go for an exploratory adventure like Bear Grylls?
Yeah, I go there all the time, and I take my kids with me, and we are dirty in mud. Yes, we love exploring. And I encourage everybody to have this mindset, to like exploring. If you like exploring environment, if you like exploring what's around you, if you like the details, you will naturally bring it to work with you. Thank you.
All right. Please vote in the app. And thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Joanna.